Hello and welcome to With Wellner Anderson. This network is about taking things that are economic, financial, and political things and putting them in simple and plain English. This is the third episode. We are talking about infrastructure. Today we're going to be talking about the impact of infrastructure, what is called gentrification, and we're going to be talking about the gentrification of New Orleans. Let me first of all explain, we need to define what gentrification is. Gentrification comes from an old term called gentry. And what gentry is someone who is in the class between the nobles and the working class people, such as craftsmen, artisans, shop owners, people like that. Gentrification itself is a financial term. It's not really a racial term, and we're going to go into that. Today, people use the terms interconnected. They say gentrification, and gentrification is, and when I get to the explanation, you'll understand what I'm saying. What it is a way that more people with more capital drive out people who are poorer and occupy their neighborhoods. It was originally coined by Ruth Glass in 1964. And what she did is she took a look at some neighborhoods in London, and she found that she created the term gentrification when she found the neighborhoods were being replaced by higher revenue people as opposed to poorer people. So when she coined that term, I'm not saying the concept of gentrification didn't exist, but the term was made by her in London. So the process of racial gentrification is a little bit different, and we interchange the two. Racial gentrification could be one group of people driving out another race, not mainly driven by dollars. It may be driven by hate. It may be driven by other reasons. But racial gentrification is not necessarily economics is the primary goal of doing that. What the process in gentrification is, you must destroy a community before you can gentrify it. And it's done through redlining, which is in essence a way that you can avoid getting investments into certain neighborhoods, little to no public and private investment, reduction in services, schools, the public school system beginning to deteriorate. And there's something called the rent gap. The rent gap is when you're purposely driving the price of real estate down so it's no longer attractive for someone to maintain their house. Efforts also are in eminent domain where the government can actually seize your property and pay you what they determine as the market value. But again, I have to go back and stress the point, you must destroy a neighborhood before you gentrify it. Now, we're going to talk about New Orleans. And the interesting about New Orleans is New Orleans was one time the third largest city in the United States. And it's sort of, when I get through this, you're going to see how New Orleans began to lose its power and its strength over time. It was formed in 1718. New Orleans is at the myth of the Mississippi River. The Mississippi River is the most vast waterway in the world. There is no comparison to it. So controlling New Orleans was tremendous, a big thing for commerce. It was a big thing for war. It was access to all the trade. If actually, from New Orleans, you can go through the tributaries and the adjacent sister rivers, and you can go to Canada from New Orleans. So it's a very, very important place to control. Okay. At first, there was subsistence farming going back then, and then once the sugar trade and the cotton trade became big, the impact of slavery to New Orleans became a really big deal. Eventually, as steamboats came along, they were able to traverse the Mississippi River, both north and south, and that opened up tremendous commerce. The first real impact on New Orleans was the Erie Canal in 1825, where Governor Dwight Clinton opened the 300-mile waterway between New York City and Albany. what that did was that took a lot of the commerce and it took a lot of traffic away from New Orleans because you were able to ship through the Erie Canal. And it was about 365 miles or so. As we said before, New Orleans, as far as the wars, the Civil War is concerned, it was a principal place to occupy. So the Union occupied New Orleans as early as 1862. So the impact of railroads, cars, highways continued to take the benefit of New Orleans away, being such as the Mississippi River being so important. New Orleans is situated where it has Lake Pontchartrain on one side and Mississippi River on the other side. So when you have rain and you have floods and you have hurricanes, within New Orleans proper, it just so happens that the whiter communities had higher elevated homes from the black communities that had lower elevated homes, and they were impacted more by minor rain, minor storms. So Hurricane Katrina, Betsy, and Camille really devastated the black community. The population dropped from 320,000 to 280,000 in the black community between the years of 2000 and 2019, after Katrina. The population of the white community only dropped from 130,000 to 120,000. That's 10,000 people. At the net effect is once Hurricane Katrina did its impact, 100,000 black people were given one-way tickets, essentially never to come back to the city. New Orleans instead was invaded by what we call hipsters. And hipsters are modern day, I guess you can call them, somewhat like the people I grew up with who were wealthy and came, but the hipsters themselves took over the communities and removed the black people from the communities. The schools in New Orleans became charter. It was an opportunity for the state then to reopen all the schools as charter schools. So they were able to solve what they thought was educational problems through the benefit of Katrina. The advent of Airbnb. Now the hipsters had real estate and they were able to rent out the districts that were primarily occupied by the black people. The hipsters rebuilt the community and used Airbnb to get revenue from the community. The property value went up incredibly also. So basically what I'm saying is New Orleans was on its decline. And due to the fact that a lot of things happened with New Orleans, including, if you think about it, the black migration from the south north, took a lot of jobs away from New Orleans. I'd like to thank you very much for your to have you give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe. Have a great day. Bye.